Where you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains. Haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. I'm never gonna give up. Fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Cause this is my road. Let's camera action, I'm ready to go. I'm never gonna give up. Fall down, I just gotta get up.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to our Real Talk edition of the Tom Ficklin Show. First, always have to give thanks, number one, to our producer, Harry, who makes this possible, and also for the opportunity that Tom Ficklin has given me and my partner, Bernard Macklin, to host a show once a month. Last month we were on, but we're back this month, happy and proud with our ladies this morning. As you guys know, if you were tuned into our last show, we had a panelist of Black males talking about the work in corporate America and how it affects our community and individuals. So we're going to follow up that great show with this great show with our females in the Black community working in corporate America and making us so proud of how they handle their affairs on a daily basis. And we're just going to talk to two of them today. I'm going to introduce you to my co-host, Bernard Macklin, who's going to introduce our panelists, and then we're going to get into a robust discussion on working in corporate America as an African American.
Wow. I am just elated to bring to you two fabulous, profound, hardworking people in this community. The very first is one that I've worked with for many years with the Cornell Scott Hill Health Center, through the NAACP and multiple other things that she does, and that is Carla Estelle Bragg. I just like to just bring her on and just have her give a word, and then I'll go to the next part.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and hello to my team here today. I just want to say thank you for the invitation to speak about my experiences, having worked many years in corporate America.
It is so great to have you today, Carla. Then I bring to you the profound, esteemed, hardworking young lady that works with me now with care, have done so much in this community and continue to do so. And we wanted to make sure we brought kind of two different types of flavors. You know, Carla is actually there with me, and then Marquita Taylor actually comes to get that young lady perspective from her perspective of where she is in her life right now. So we have Carla Estelle Bragg, and we have Marquita Taylor, Dr. Marquita Taylor, if I can say so. I hope I ain't throw her out there like that. But definitely, she's definitely earned it.
Thank you so much.
Word, Marquita.
For that warm introduction. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I am Marquita Taylor, Dr. Marquita Taylor, formally. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Excited to be here and share my perspective. I think that what I have to say, there may be some unexpected things from the millennial standpoint, but I'll be sure to be honest and transparent. And I just want to say thank you in advance for including me in this.
There you go, Mo. You can take it from here.
Okay, we're going to start our discussion this morning. The first question that I would like to ask our panelists is, who was the most influential person in your life in making you want to be involved in community work that is in connection with the different corporations and organizations and institutions that you've worked for so far?
Why don't we start with Carla?
Well, it's easy, but it's hard to identify one person because, as you know, Maurice, my family is civically engaged, and I grew up basically in that environment. I mean, it was not really optional. I was with my parents, I was with my grandparents, I was with aunts and uncles who served the community on a regular basis, boards of education, parent teachers. My grandfather and grandmother were, Marcus Garveyites. So, um, in terms of being reared, it was just something that was natural to do. But I must say that as a young parent, in my late 20s, with a baby that was 3 months old, my brother had opened up a restaurant in the New Hallville section of the city where we lived, where we grew up. And at that time, there was a lot of um, violence, a lot of gang violence in the city. And what was really pretty cool was that, his restaurant was a safe place. So young men came from all different neighborhoods. And out of respect for him, they supported the restaurant, but there was no mess. And from that grew a nonprofit called Elm City Nation. And me, young parent, with a baby and a husband and just forming a career, realized in that moment that, if I wanted this world to be different for my baby, that I needed to get back to what I was birthed out of. Because at that point, I was working, in corporate America, and I was, going to work doing my 40 hours and my little bit of overtime and coming home and taking care of my family. And that was my world, it was family and work. And I really was not doing much in community at that point. And so um, it was really through what he was doing that brought those two worlds together for me, because I got very involved. And then at work, I started to begin to take on positions that allowed me to network and do what I needed to do with regard to my position.
Marquita?
Yeah, thank you, Carla. That was amazing. You are definitely someone that I look up to here in New Haven, and definitely thank you for continuing to trailblaze and be a role model
Thanks,
for
Marquita.
me and so many others. So I have to give you that a credit and your flowers now, because I don't think that we do that enough. So this question is a little tough because for me, it hasn't been a person or people, it's been things and experiences. So I've always felt that I've never had this a role model person or this group of people to look up to, but I knew and I know how it felt to grow up in the not in an environment that wasn't the best. So for me, it wasn't people, there were experiences and things. And for me, I was of the mindset of what can I do to make tomorrow better for the next generation or just for other people. I come from a neighborhood where I literally saw somebody get killed in front of my house, where it was drug deals taking place left and right, where I would have to sometimes duck into a corner stores because people were outside shooting. So for me, it wasn't people, it was experiences. Like there were many people who I grew up with. We were all poor and nobody knew it because
Right.
everybody was poor. So we thought that it was, we thought that that was just how life was. But to me, I was like, there has to be more. So my yearning to do what I do now came from not wanting to be or to raise a family the way that I came up. So experiences, I would say, shaped me, being able to identify, hey, violence is affecting my mental and emotional health. Eating certain foods, for example, aren't really healthy. Why is the corner store the only place to go? And of course, I started to develop this thinking as I got into high school or so. But for me, it was more so experience, wanting to be the change.
I love your story.
Great to hear
Yeah.
your story of perseverance coming up in the neighborhoods, which I'm sure we all can emulate coming up in the neighborhoods and knowing that violence and poverty is a part of the Black experience a lot of times growing up. But we are so encouraged by your story, but also by the work that you do on a daily basis here in New Haven, working along with CARE and with our Fellows Project that we're so proud of, which are bringing community members into the healthcare field and really seeing the design and the way that things work in the healthcare community. But my next thought was also about we know now, thankfully, we have a female vice president, first ever in our country. And so that it seems that opportunity is really on the rise for women in our communities. We are proud to announce to those who don't know, but right now, the African American woman is the most decorated from scholars in our country of individuals. So we're very proud of that, seeing so many. So can you guys just tell us a little bit about your college journey and what was some of the big remembrance thoughts of those great times and those great years as you went through your schooling?
Why don't we start with Marquita?
Yeah, I can start. I'm always excited to answer this one. So, sort of what I alluded to, I knew that I didn't want to be in the hood anymore. Like, I knew that there had to be something better for me. So, education in my family was pushed pretty heavily. Education and just general love. Um, I did not choose a career field that I loved. I chose the one that was going to make me money. So I originally went to school for a business and finance. Um, and I worked formally in corporate America for a government and large financial institutions for years. I was always passionate about a community, but I also, again, felt as if I needed to help out my family and I wanted a stable life. You know, a lot of the um, people doing the work in the community, they aren't the best paid. They don't get the kudos that they should. Um, Sometimes it feels thankless. In my young 17-year-old mind, when I went to school, I wanted to make money. So I did that for years. And I became very unhappy because the work was not impactful. The work just, it wasn't impactful. So I decided to go back to school a few times actually and study um, study work that could lead me to a more impactful career. So that's how I ended up here. I don't think there was this major aha moment. I think that I needed all of my experiences to land me here. So although I'm not in finance anymore, I'm able to use that and project management skills and all of these other skills I learned to help operationalize things with in communities around health and service and learning and leadership. So um, something I say is this career sort of chose me. I got sick when I was in my mid 20s. I was mistakenly, I guess, but a kind of a blessing, diagnosed with a form of cancer. So at that time, I was a 25 battling cancer, trying to get a PhD, just all of these things. And my cancer was they couldn't determine a source genetically. They were unable to identify it in my blood, so like untraceable. They only found it because I had a surgery. So at that point I started to dig much deeper into health and into community health and like what factors are affecting Black people. Because if the people who went to school for a million years can't figure it out, maybe I could. And I attributed it to diet and just a lack of healthy food options over the years. So, like, my, again, experiences led me here. And I think that a large part of this work in this field sort of chose me.
Carla?
So college was an interesting journey. First, let me just say that college was, my parents made sure I understood, my mother in particular, that college was not optional, that I was going. And I didn't, you know, the millennials amaze me. My young nieces and nephews and kids that I know, I'm so proud of them because they are pursuing a dream, and they have goals. I really did not. I worked from the time I was 9 years old to when I graduated from high school in my uncle's office, who was a physician. And I started out filing. Then I went to work this was years ago, of course. So I was helping my older cousin, who was the billing person. Everything was very manual. When she went away to college, then I became the person that managed the office billing through Medicare. And I worked underneath my aunt, who had her master's in healthcare. I come from a family that's largely healthcare and education. And I did that. And then when I was in high school, my senior year, I went to Catholic high school. The counselor, when I was applying for colleges, and it gets a little emotional for me because I didn't understand racism really. But the counselor said to me that I should not consider college, that a secretarial school was probably better for a person like me. And, there were a lot of Black girls in that school with me. And now as I reflect about it, now what if we had all done what she advised, right? I look at my friends and they're in the world doing amazing things. But what if we had paid attention to what was told to us? When I came home and told my mother what the lady said, she took me in her arms back to that school. And when I tell you, she put it on, she went ballistic on those people, and she made it happen for me. I went to Boston, to Northeastern University. I didn't stay long. I didn't like it there. The people were not very friendly. And I think a part of it was that I didn't really want to leave my family because my family was just so close knit. And so I transferred. My aunt worked in admissions at Southern Connecticut State University. One phone call and I was in by Monday. So I transferred to Southern. I worked full time and I went to school full time, but not really. So let me go back. When I was at Northeastern, my major was computer science, but this was in the very beginning of the computer area as an academic field. And I was a really good student, but I was coming my exams were like D, D plus, C minus, and everybody in the class was like that. So I went to the dean and he was like, Carla, it's a new field and not everybody who understands computers is really good at teaching it. He was like, so, you have a decision to make. And I chose not to fail. So I changed my major. And, while my family, my mom really was pressuring me to, be a nurse, study medicine, stay in the healthcare field because there's stability there. You can have a good life there. I didn't want to do it because I felt like I've done that. Since I was 9, I've been working in my uncle's office. I want to explore something different. So I chose business economics as my major with a concentration in marketing. But there really was not a yearning to work in business. It was just, what? I saw my parents had a good life. I didn't yearn, a big bank account. I just kind of wanted to be able to pay my bills, have a family, and live a normal life like my parents did. And I didn't really know what to imagine for that. I just knew my mother said, "You're going." Business economics felt general enough that I could land somewhere and have a decent job. And that's kind of really what it was. And I worked full time and I went to school full time. And sometimes, I was working based on my schedule. I was working as a nurse's aide. And I basically, stacked my money, paid my little one credit card, and I had friends, and that was my life. I hung out a lot, but I did my work. That's what my parents were concerned about, was, you can have fun, but you need to get this degree. So that, it wasn't really very eventful. I learned a lot about myself in my college years, and who I would become kind of happened after college.
Great, great, great. It takes me to the thought of capturing some of the themes that we're hearing so far this morning. Family support strong, experiences coming through the hood, um, shapes mindsets of not wanting to be in those spaces anymore and to move forward. But we always want to leave teachable moments for our listening audience, especially our younger people. So my next question would be, what advice would you give to African American women just starting the workforce, and give some tips and some advice of what to look out for? Um, we always, as the name of our discussion is Real Talk, we always want to be able to give the real talk. I mean, as a male working at the university and trying to avoid some of the things that happen on a daily basis. I always think about our beautiful African American women who are also challenged by those thoughts of, sexual harassment, different things that happen in the workplace, keeping your professionalism, but also being able to be modest and attractive, which, is a vanity for women. To keep up their looks and the way they're displayed in the community, but also to do it in a way that has modesty and we appreciate that. So those thoughts that some of our young women that are going into the workforce to see two, as we would call, seasoned veterans in the workforce, just give them some type of advice that you may can give to.
Let's start with Carla. Carla, I like
That
you.
that one hit my heart, and let me tell you why. When I went into the banking industry, I went into insurance and then I went into banking. When I got into banking, I had the experience of seeing very few, but a few, Black managers and directors and vice presidents. And I had to be certified as a mortgage lender. And there was one particular woman, there were two really, but one particular who, after she met me in that training, she didn't know me from a hole in the wall. She found me in that bank. She took me to lunch. She sat me down and she told me everything I needed to know about how to survive in that environment. And I embraced that, and I did the same thing for everybody that came beyond really for my whole life, whether it was in banking or anywhere else, because we are so few that, without some coaching and mentoring, emotionally is hard because you are trying to get ahead. I think that the number one thing for me that was really important that I was taught in that class was to always have, as a young professional, you always want to be taking notes about who you meet, right? Because they're always resources and you don't know everything, but you need to know who the people are that know those things. So I always kept a notebook with names, phone numbers, emails. And I would reach out to people. Networking is the biggest thing you could potentially do, right? And to be kind, to be nice, to be open, to be honest, to be authentic. Um, Later on in life, a chief financial officer said to me on my way out of an organization, I was leaving, and I wanted to make sure that I did everything necessary. I worked until 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning some nights, making sure that files were ready and nobody, could say I didn't do my job, even though I was leaving. And he pulled me in his office and he said, Carla, he said, one thing I love about you, he said, first of all, I can't believe you're here. You're leaving. You could just leave, walk out the door at 5 o'clock every day, but you don't. And he said to me, he said, I love that you are so authentic in that you are who you are for everyone, for the clients, for the executive director, for the board, for your friends, for your family. You are who you are. And that's who I aspire to be. If you love people, be that person that loves all the people. That doesn't mean everybody's going to love you, but don't ever let anybody change your spirit, right? And give 150% because I know we've all been taught that. That's imperative. You have to have a really strong work ethic. And I believe that if you are working through God, that you're going to always be blessed. And everything that we do, if we bring God in our heart and in our work, you're going to always be covered.
Marquita, can you follow up behind that?
Yeah, I will try. Amazing, Carla. Echoing a lot of those sentiments. So for someone entering the workforce now, I would encourage them to try to establish a sense of balance early on, because if not, it'll be hard to essentially try to establish it later. Um, Early on in my career, um, I operated very much under the sense that I have to work harder. I have to be this superwoman. I'm a Black woman, so I can't complain. I'm also Black and I'm young. I'm also Black, young, and I'm leading these teams. So one thing that also helped me was that I was always confident, so that even if I was going into the boardrooms and I was presenting at the meetings and running the teams, even if I didn't know it all, I was always confident. And I think people respected that. In most of the spaces I've worked in, I've always been the youngest and I've always been the only Black person. So I did feel as if I had to do a little more. I remember every day I would dress up for work in finance. I would wear suits. I would dress up every day um, to help foster a sense of, or to help gain respect from other people. And I think that trying to please other people in certain ways became more stressful than my actual job and my actual work, because I felt as if I had to do all of that to be respected. So something else I would say is to be authentic and to be genuine and to be yourself as best you can. I remember I was interviewing for a position that I had been recruited for, and I had maybe 6 interviews for this job. 6. And I was like, y'all asked me to come here. Why y'all sweating me with 6 interviews?
Right.
So I would wear my hair back in a bun, like a clean look. And on my very first day, I had my navy blue suit on and a white shirt, but I had a braid out. So my hair was like, full. I had my natural style. And one of the very first things my boss said to me was, "Wow, I didn't know your hair was so big." So,
Mm.
like my my experiences in the workforce around microaggressions and things like that started early on, but still I was always very confident. Something else is to become a comfortable calling things out, like, hey, I don't think that that was appropriate.
Mm.
And not just being a bystander when you see inappropriate things happening to other people either. So certainly stand up for yourself, but also be a voice for others when you can. And then lastly, use your sick time, use your PTO, um, get to know who your HR representatives are,
Mhm.
use them as needed, become familiar with things like FMLA in case you need to take some a time away so that your job is secure. Like I found that a lot of Black people are like, no, no, you can go to the doctor and get something for
Mhm.
that. And your job is still secure. So become familiar with your workplace policies and know your rights as an
Yeah,
employee.
yeah. I would like to add one other thing that was spoken to me by a Black male who was an executive in banking, and he said to me, he said, "You're outgoing and you're going to do well." And he said, I want you to know you're going to be called into meetings. And sometimes when you get called into these big meetings, it's very easy to just blend in and sit in the back and listen." He said, "I'm not telling you not to listen. Listen and learn." He said, "But I also want you to participate. There's no point in being in a meeting if you're not going." He said, "If they're inviting you for a reason." He said, "You should always be prepared, do your research before you go in there and speak up, be a voice. You're there representing others." And so I've always tried to do that as well when it made sense. Because sometimes you get a new job, you're learning and you just don't know and you don't want to say the wrong thing. I love what Marquita said about being confident. You know, that's very important. Your voice needs to be heard. You count.
So, with that, how do you balance confidence versus arrogance?
Arkita.
There's a fine line.
That's a good question. Oh my gosh, that's a good wow. That's a really, really tough one. I will agree that there's a fine line. Um, I think that I balance it though by being transparent about the fact that I don't know everything and that I won't pretend to know everything, but the stuff I do know, I'm gonna be like, no, that's not no. And I'm not going to again pretend to know stuff. I can point you in the right direction though. So I know how to find things. Um, but that's a tough question, but I would have to say being honest and transparent about the stuff that I don't know, um, but also being able to say, actually, this is it. Um, another thing is, so I think as a Black woman, for me, titles have been important. So having people address me appropriately, introduce me appropriately, but also ensuring that my ensuring that I get the same respect as my peers that don't look like me. So correcting them about my name, how to say it, how it's spelled, the letters that come before it and after it. Yeah, I'm gonna correct that, and I don't see that as arrogant all the time. And most times when there are other Black people around, they're like, yeah. So I've had a lot of people in my corner who have um, supported that in a lot of ways.
Carla.
I think it's an interesting question because who defines arrogance?
Yeah, go for
Think
it.
about it. Anybody could say this, but I feel like, okay, as a Black woman, you know, do I concern myself with the Black males, feeling about me, the white male, the white woman? There's so many different people are who they are innately, and we all, come to the table with different values. And I have had people say to me that others that were my friends or colleagues were arrogant, or I didn't think they were arrogant. I thought they were confident. So who defines it?
That's true.
It's a good question and it's a good thought, but I mean, my main thought behind the question is knowing that we have a lot of young women coming into fields where their esteem is low. And we want to be able to help our people to understand that you always put that best foot forward. And if you continue to work with those ethics, being on time, being punctual, being a person that can be relied on.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of an email sent to me by Marquita the other day. She's so far out and prepared. And so she's asking me about something in July. And so I'm looking like, okay, if I'm here, you have my full attention to do the presentation, but I don't like to think out that far. But it woke me up to the point of having a plan,
Yeah.
being planned out so that things work out. And that's good that she's put something on my radar already for me to get prepared and to be ready for presentation. And I just find that in our communities, as we go through our daily rituals and our daily custom, a lot of it is based on things aren't planned to be successful. So for us to help our younger generation, our millennials, as they're coming into this corporate world, they're going to be shocked about a lot of changes that's happened over the years. Technology has changed, Carla.
Yeah.
We all know since we've got involved in things. Um, the work relationship with individuals. I like to think of people who I work with as work family. You spend 8 hours a day with them, way more than you get to spend with your actual family. So people become your work family, but also to respect people's personal and private space. And
That's true.
all those things have to be done on a, I think Marqueta said it the best, on a balance. Always have to be able to balance those things in life that's going to help us not only take care of our family, productive, but also to be good community members in a community that we know has a lot of deficit. That kind of takes me to
That balance, though, Maurice, is critical.
very,
And
very
something
critical.
else that Marquita said too, when you asked her about that last question, respect is very important. Arrogance. I don't know. When I think about it, when I think about some people that I would definitely say are arrogant, they don't respect other people's opinions. They don't respect other people's positions. It's a lot about them. And I think when if you can you can position yourself as a leader and respect your team, right? And respect your colleagues, and that still many times is going to provide opportunity. You don't have to be the only person in the room that knows everything.
And then something that you can't say I've always felt this. I have not always considered those who I work with my work family. So now at 33, this is these are the most people of color, Black people that I've ever worked with, ever, ever. So I don't think that previously I was considering those folks family. To me, it was just transactional. I know that you can fire me and find a problem with whatever I'm doing at any time. So I was never ever comfortable enough to consider those folks family. I remember getting called into a meeting around my attire being inappropriate. I was wearing suits. I was an auditor for the government. I was wearing suits. So is it some people complaining about my body type or my body shape? I wear suits here. And
Right.
I do a dang good job here. So I wasn't considering those folks family. Like
Right.
a lot of it was like, this is what I'm here to do. I was also, of course, again, early on in my career under the mindset that I had to work harder and that you had to see me working harder. So sometimes I would literally get to work at 6:30 a.m. so that when my boss came in at 7:30, I was there.
Yeah.
And I was burnt out. And then they gave me a cell phone and I was working 7 days a week. No. So like there were just I I've never considered folks family um until recently. I just didn't get that comfortable where I could do that. Also, as a millennial, I will leave your place of employment. Like I'm not tied to any place yet. I get bored. Like I love the work, but I'm not tied to a place. So I have goals, pretty lofty goals. And if another organization comes to me with a great offer for great work that I can do, I'm going to take it. I don't have that loyalty just yet either. So,
Do you aspire to have that?
I do. I would love to get somewhere and stay.
Like
But
I feel that way.
I also, yes. Like I love the work. But I also have this desire for like more and more and more and more. Like, yes, I can do this, but I also want to do this and that. So I wouldn't work for a place that ties me down to that thing because you're also valuing that time. You are saying that I'm only worth, I don't know, $30 an hour. Marquita worth way more than $30 an hour. So it's like we allow people to attach a value to us and our time. So I wouldn't work for an employer that is going to box me in. Yes, I work for you, but I'm also consulting over here, over here, over there, because
Marquita, that's a really good point. You bring up a really good point about for our young people to learn that they can negotiate that. That you have that power. Just because you have that job doesn't mean you can't do all kinds of other things. My grandfather always said to me, you should have a job. You have that job. But he said, have your own business too, because they don't put anybody in control of your destiny.
Okay,
all my brothers have done that except for me.
That's gonna bring us to one of our last points that I wanted to talk about, which is entrepreneurship. Because I want you to hear these numbers and I want you to think about it. You work 40 hours a week for 40 years to have 40% of your income. So if knowing those numbers, how can we encourage more and more, especially African American women, to own their own businesses? Marquita touched on something that I always feel when they talk to me about what I do at work. You can't put a price tag on it. The number of people you touch during a regular day of activity in your jobs. What if that was your company? Now, the thought is always, of course, startup money and confidence and a lot of different things to run a business successfully. But as we're seeing in the modern day, and what's being said is we go to school to learn to manage other people's companies to make them wealthy, and we do not acquire that wealth. What is your thought of young entrepreneurship and infusing the things that you've done in your life and to leave a legacy for family and friends that you have been connected to during the course of your work in corporate America?
Thank you. I love this question. So my entire dissertation is on entrepreneurship and ways to foster it within Black people and Black communities. 300-page research paper on this specific thing. So I always get extremely excited about it. I think building your own wealth is essential. I don't think that it's being touched on, talked about soon enough. So I knew about it because when I was in high school, my dad started a lawn care business that was very lucrative. And that was the first time that I remember my parents like really being comfortable and having money. So they bought a house when I was in high school, all of these things. I would say that it's necessary, and that entrepreneurship isn't something that you have to go to school to do or to learn. You also don't need a ton of startup capital to do it. I will also say not get discouraged because there are other people in that lane. There's a lot of people who are going to be doing this same thing that you might be interested in doing, but not to get discouraged by that. Also to surround yourself with like-minded people. Like surround yourself with people who also may be interested in that and already pursuing that. Have conversations, network, and then the last thing, don't think that you have to quit your day job. I'm an entrepreneur. My businesses are very lucrative, but I love the work I do during the day. I love the benefits. I love the stability. I love that the money I make here is funding all of these other things I'm doing. So get into it.
Thank you. Carla, we have about 3 minutes, so we're going to let you close out and give some encouraging words to our young, looking forward to be entrepreneurs.
I do it, basically. Do it. It's extremely important. Look for the partners Marquita said it. There are people in that lane already. So talk to people and find out what resources are out there to help you, especially now, because there's a lot of resources out there for entrepreneurship. They may not be like $10,000, but there's a lot of programs that will offer like $1,500 to $2,500, depending on what lane you're going in. There's always, but I think for young people in particular, I that's a long story, but anyway, I feel like that is the sun, the moon, and the stars, entrepreneurship. And especially, I want to put this out there because I don't know who's listening, but people who have had a criminal background, probation, not necessarily incarcerated or incarcerated, I want them to know, do not be, blindsided by thinking that you have to have that type of limitations on your life. Like, entrepreneurship serves all kinds of people. Everybody has talent. Everybody. You just have to find what it is and do it.
I inspire to be like both. Just let me say, definitely what you shared today was profound. And I hope everyone that's listening, male and female, be the best you. Inspired to be the best. It's not about being arrogant, still love, and not put yourself above people. But there's nothing wrong with being the best and working to be the best for what you choose to do in life. We respect you both, love everybody, and we say peace. All those that are listening.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for a wonderful show. And to our mothers, happy Mother's Day weekend. And we look forward to next month with an exciting topic on Real Talk. So everyone have a wonderful and glorious weekend.
Yeah. As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission. I'm on roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new addition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you're going. Better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains. Haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up. Fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Cause this is my road. Let's camera action.